Welcome back to Contract Intelligence through Category Management and Strategic Sourcing on Federal News Radio. My guests on the panel today include Angela Billups of HHS, Kevin Ewell-Page of the General Services Administration, Ken Brennan of the Department of Defense, and Paul Donato of Ernst & Young. And Kevin, I want to come to you as we talk about the benefits that agencies are already realizing through category management. We've talked about the benefits of cost savings, and that's a pretty obvious driver of category management. We've also talked about better procurements providing mission execution at a higher level of delivery for agencies. What else have we missed?
Most people who work for the federal government and the people who serve the federal government as contractors come in every morning trying to make a difference for the American people. And at the end of the day, one of the big benefits I see to getting category management right, and we're not done yet, is restoring the American people's faith in this government's ability to deliver and to do it at a best value, to do it smart, to do it like the private sector does it. And so I know that some of the benefit on the back end of this effort is having more of my federal colleagues come to work every morning knowing they're applying their talents in things that are providing tremendous bang for the buck. And that when I'm sitting across the table negotiating, I know we're negotiating to get the American mission done. And that's a big deal for me. That's what gets me up in the morning. So yeah, we're saving money. What we're really doing is working hard in the engine room of democracy here to make sure it's working.
Ken, we talked in the last segment about that tighter integration, the tighter collaboration between the customers that your acquisition team serves and the acquisition team itself. Is that the main driver of the success that we'll continue to see through category management, do you think?
Yeah, I do believe that it is. And one of the reasons that it is so important is while the sequestration has focused our attention like never before almost, it really does help us understand that broader American mission that Kevin just mentioned. While there will be savings integral to an individual program, those savings don't necessarily stay with that program. They can go back to the taxpayer directly, or they can go to another high priority that just wasn't funded or maybe unforecasted. An example was the Ebola response. Just wasn't something that was on our radar screen until it was there. And how do we do that? We do that by making sure that every part of our organization is running as lean and as appropriate to mission execution as possible. Mm-hmm. So I think that it really does contribute.
Angela, your agency had a role in the Ebola response too, and we're not here to talk about Ebola, but I think that does serve as a good example, as Ken mentioned, of the kinds of situations that present themselves where you've created some headroom, essentially, financially and in other ways, through category management that allow you flexibility when something like that rears its head.
It most certainly does. Just recently, I had the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness to come to me to say, Angela, when I look across some of the things that we're doing in the health industry and I look at DOD, Veteran Administration, we're duplicating a lot of efforts. And when we do a study at NIH, it may not have panned out for that particular reason, but it has benefits in other areas. So she said, you know what, I think it's time for us to start looking in this area to try to figure out how we can do category management. And that's something that she came to me to make that statement and ask, what can you do to help with that? So we are working together now to look at and take introduce this effort to OFPP so that we can see, how several departments can work together looking at this space, that we have common areas so that we can look at just that, how to do that better for the taxpayer.
And that seems to be a benefit that is nobody's really talking about yet, but probably will be talking about as this develops, Paul. The idea that this is not just Kevin and his colleagues at GSA, Ann and Leslie at OFPP pushing this down to agencies. The agencies are starting to have these conversations amongst themselves and with each other, and then pushing that information up to OMB as well.
No, absolutely. The clients we work with, it's been tremendous to see the amount of knowledge sharing happening across agencies. So, helping understand, hey, what are you doing in category management? What are we doing? Where are there potentials to share lessons learned? Sharing those lessons more broadly up to OFPP, GSA, others. But I think there's a real focus there on trying to figure out how we don't duplicate effort in terms of things that you're trying out and really, taking those lessons to apply them to really hopefully get to a more streamlined place from an acquisition perspective.
Mm-hmm. I saw that happy grin, Kevin, as Angela was talking about what was going on inside HHS. That germination of these seeds that you all are throwing out there must be very gratifying.
Well, it is, and but I think you asked, is it a top-down thing, and I said, heaven forfend. I mean, we need the top-down support. We need the leadership to agree that this is a good idea. We will build it when we build it together from the bottom up. And so I'm smiling because I'm thinking of my CAP team that's out having one-on-one interviews with working acquisition level folks on the program side, on the procurement side, making them talk together about what they really need to get their job done. This is I keep telling them they're part of a revolution. They're running a little guerrilla change management army, and I need them thinking about how to flip this any way we can into a more productive conversation. And so I really do see it happening from the ground up with top level buy-in and support.
You mentioned a moment ago that this is a work in progress, and you said we're not done yet. What's still to do? How do you see this movement, I guess it is now, moving forward in the coming months and years, Kevin?
I think Paul may have said it earlier. We need to continue laying in the policy framework that supports and encourages the kind of collaboration that we're starting to see happen organically. We need to increase our ability to manage the data and to have the conversation using the data, the evidence-based discussion to improve acquisition. And we need to mature our ability to queue up that conversation and to have it. To make the decisions and to discern the good reasons for not working together vice the bad reasons for not working together, which is really fundamentally at the heart of this. And we have a whole lot of work to do to get people used to working in the new paradigm, really working on things that are of higher value maybe than they've ever been asked to work on in the past. I think that's very exciting for a lot of people. So I think there's a whole lot of reinvestment that we can make in our own workforce and our own skills and in our own impact on mission that I think is still ahead of us. But all of it, I think, is quite positive for us.
Angela, what tools or resources would you like to either grow inside HHS or leverage from another agency or maybe see provided by OMB, OFPP as this effort moves forward to make sure that it's as productive as it possibly can be for your agency?
At HHS right now, believe it or not, I'm trying to implement category management, and I have all of one full-time body. And of course, I have a person that direct reports to me, and she's in charge of that person. And so what we were able to do at HHS is to carve out some money for the program, but it's not nearly enough, as in, the different things that we need to do to really have really big success in this area. So really, it's just a matter of, I think Kevin said something earlier about, all of the things that people do on their jobs, and some people are concerned about losing a job. The focus in your job may be different from what it is today, but we can use those same people and try to grow them into these areas that we call category managers. And so I think that's my biggest, it's just the resources for me. I think we've kind of gotten our people used to thinking about category management. We're getting some help from different acts and regulations, as well as executive orders that are passed, such as FTARA, the Federal Information Technology Acquisition Reform Act. It includes an area for category management. So the message is out there. Now it's a matter of putting the resources there to help us to be successful.
Ken, same question. What tools, resources, et cetera, could you use more of? Support, policies, anything, either from OMB or inside the department, or, as Angela mentioned, FTARA. So Congress has a role here, too.
They do. I think that one of my major data wish lists for Christmas, I would love to have better spend analysis data. Right now, the systems that we operate are very high level. We do not get a lot of granularity. So I think that there are some types of spend hidden in other locations that are labeled against the preponderance. But more importantly, as big as that is, I think what we need to do is to develop a cadre of folks with a similar mindset. And part of it's critical thinking, but also is the skill set that makes them, I refer to it as kind of a stock analyst, trader analyst for government purchasing. they need to know that marketplace as well as anyone. They need to understand the levers, the pressures, the profit ratios, the overheads at an expert level, so that we can turn that into information and knowledge that we pass to the end stakeholders to make the best decisions for those acquisitions.
Kevin, that's not a terribly egregious wish list. I didn't hear any, unicorns or anything on those lists. Those all sounds like things that that our friends here should be able to get in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and the hopeful thing is we're actually working on each of those items in the wish list. I mean, we are working very collaboratively with DoD and HHS, for that matter, on a number of these wish list items. The Common Acquisition Platform is really our effort to make sure that we have institutionalized the capability to share data, to do that expert decision support. We're trying to envision it almost as a turbo FAR to take in. Angela made the comment about needing to help people retool and help people step up the value chain in what they do, and to exist in a world where there are category answers. We'd like to understand how we take advantage of technology to move these data into people's hands in very actionable ways. And I can imagine just the way the TurboTax has made the tax code easier to grapple with by taxpayers every year who come to this new. We can very much do the same thing with the Turbo FAR, and really get ourselves into a position where a lot of the stuff's already been bought. It's available through a shared service. It's available through an existing contract. It's available very fast. It's available at world-class terms and conditions, and you can just come and do that. So we're building that and bringing it together. The CAP is really the effort. We're trying that tool to bring that wish list to fruition for my colleagues and for this country.
And I go back to the concept that you laid out earlier, Kevin, which is if people don't have to be in that business anymore, they can be in a more entrepreneurial, proactive business rather than just kind of checking boxes.
If they're not in that business, they're in the business of fixing Ebola. They're in the business of going to Mars. They're in the business of defending this country against foreign threats. So I think they're in the business that we all want to be in. No one wants to be in the business of pushing a purchase order. That's not the mission of this government. That's just something we do to get the important stuff done. And I think we're going to have more and more people push to the pointy end of getting our mission done as a government, and it's a lot less about buying stuff. It's a lot more about delivering mission, and I think that should be exciting for people in the profession.
I apologize to whoever of you used the word institutionalized, because it's a great word. I think it might have been you, Ken. But that's one of the key elements that strikes me, Paul, that we should consider over the next 18 months, because the Obama administration leaders who have been working this issue for pretty much the entire term, or pretty much the entire administration, won't be in office January 20th, 2017 at 12 noon anymore. And yet, with the benefits that we've discussed, continuing this effort is something that seems likely to continue into the next administration. What would you like to see agencies do? What are you recommending to your clients that they do in order to institutionalize this concept so that it does continue after January 20th if the benefits continue to accrue the way they have?
Yeah, and I think we'll know we've gotten there, right, when this becomes the norm, right? Category management is just a part of the process, and it's the way folks are used to doing that. I think the biggest thing is as we talk to our clients, is you can spend a lot of time trying to figure out how do we do this perfectly and this and that, right? The most important thing is how do you just get started? And I think one of the things we've talked about today is having a clear understanding from a data perspective on where you're spending your money, the types of things you're buying. That's really critical, right? And so with our clients, as they're thinking about this journey, that's the first thing we talk to them about. Do you understand, kind of where you're spending, to start to figure that out and figure out how you map that process out. But from our perspective, that's the most important thing. And take advantage. We work with clients all the time, and they talk about, hey, we're thinking about looking at opportunity in this category. Well, have you looked at what GSA has done from an FSSI perspective, or have you looked at some of the other agencies and what they have out there from a GWAC perspective? So really helping clients think also about what else does it exist today that can jumpstart that journey for you.
We just have a few minutes left, so we'll play a lightning round. We've covered a lot of ground on category management in our conversation today. Kevin, I'll start with you. What haven't we talked about, if anything, that you would like to make sure is reinforced in the minds of folks that are interested in this and trying to understand how it's going to change their world in the coming months, years, and so on?
We've kind of talked around it. I think it's a work in progress, and the great way that I think we're going about this as a government, we don't have the final answer. We have a final direction and a destination. There's a lot of ways people can be involved in this to help influence the way it plays out and the way we execute on the basic idea of how to work as one. And so I think the future isn't written. It's just out there for us to grasp. And there's a lot of opportunity for people at in different places in their career within the federal government, outside of government, to weigh in and be supportive of moving us to a better future. So a lot of opportunity is what I would summarize.
Angela, final thoughts?
Just the idea, I would just like to key off of something that Kevin just said. Really, at the end of the day, this really is about an opportunity. Because, when you look at how the budgets, over the years, if I just look across just the last 4 years, how, the budgets have been cut, there are different things that we can do, take advantage of, the budget may be cut, but here's some things that we weren't doing very well. Now we have opportunities to do better, and that's really what it's about, because that's what we do. We look at whatever happens from the top, whatever we have to do to continue with our mission, and at the end of the day, it's about what can we do to do things a little bit different, a little bit better, and that really is about thinking about the opportunity.
Ken?
We've talked about it before, but for reiteration, I think that it is appropriate to remind everybody that this isn't a contracting solution. And even the term acquisition has a tendency to be interpreted and backslide into contracting. This is about the entire federal space. Mission providers, all of the enablers through contracting, through HR, it all ripples. And we need a comprehensive, institutionalized process to make sure that this carries forward at the maximum benefit possible.
Paul, you get the last word.
Great. Yeah, I think echo a little bit of what Ken just said there. I think, think about this as an end-to-end process, right? And not get fixated on one piece of the acquisition process. This is really trying to strive for efficiencies throughout that entire process. An exciting time for, folks who I think are in this space, and great things to come from it.
I want to thank you all for this terrific conversation. Kevin Ewell-Page of GSA, Paul Donato of Ernst & Young, Angela Billups, Department of Health and Human Services, Ken Brennan, Department of Defense. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you for joining our panel. Sponsored by Ernst & Young, I'm Francis Rose.
On behalf of Ernst & Young, thank you for joining our discussion. We'll have the archive from this session available shortly, and a link will be sent to you to share with your colleagues. Those of you who requested a training certificate will receive an email with download instructions immediately following the webinar. This concludes today's webinar. Thank you.